back to another episode of Kpop Rambles with Rachel. I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot how the intro went. It is the second episode, so please forgive me. I think we'll work it out as I record more of these and have maybe a dedicated intro, or just like kind of have a shortened version of the intro and just say it as is once I maybe say it enough times. But if you're new here, hello, welcome, glad to have you here. So Kpop Rambles with Rachel is essentially like a mini podcast, or kind of just having like a conversation with you guys, talking about a variety of things involving my interest in K-pop. In today's episode, I will talk about how I became a fan of Stray Kids and then got burnt out. And maybe, if however this goes, we'll talk about how I became a multi-stan. But we'll see how long this conversation goes, and we'll kind of go from there. But the main focus for today's episode will be about Stray Kids. So yeah, like I said in my first episode, I tend to have like a script, or kind of like a more streamlined version of what I want to talk about. And so I'm not like rambling in the sense of like, okay, now I just lost my topic of what I'm trying to say because I want to talk about so much. And when I was trying to do a test version of this specific episode, I realized it was actually a lot shorter than I thought. I could have talked a lot more about some certain things in regards about how I got into Stray Kids. So we'll see how that goes, which is why I kind of say like maybe we'll get into talking about multi-stan and how that happened and how that came to be, because I was kind of thinking about it and I had to remember, how did I become a multi-stan? But regardless, we go off track. So back to the topic at hand. So it all started, I believe, I get the years confused. I want to say it was the end of 2020 was when I first heard the song, and then beginning of 2021 is when I became a fan. Oh gosh, I'd have to like look up when Thunderous came out, because that's when I believe I became a stay. But like I said, back to how it started. So it all started when I was playing games, like video games on my computer, all that stuff. I had some like YouTube music playlists on the background because I didn't have Spotify at the time. I just kind of put it on shuffle because I was just like recommended stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Seems fine. We'll kind of go with it. And Stray Kids, specifically their song Backdoor, was on that playlist. And they kept consistently going back up again. So the very first time I heard it, it was just very quietly playing in the background. And at the time, I didn't do any research. I figured maybe one day I will dive back into the K-pop world. Not today, though. Whenever that first day was, I decided not to. I was just like, nope, today's not that day. Maybe that day will come. But eventually, Backdoor, it just kept popping up on that specific playlist so much, despite how many times I put it on shuffle. And it wasn't a problem per se, but I was just so like, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something, right? So I finally decided to sit down and just learn, like, what is Stray Kids all about? Like, is it a group I should get into? Is it not? Because another reason that added to it that I don't think I talked about in my text version is that I actually saw a TikTok of Felix and was like, wait a minute, that he has that deep of a voice and that's normal? And I'm like, wait a minute. And so I saw other people react to him, and I was also like, wait a minute, that's not right. How does that work? Is that not edited somehow? It wasn't. If long story short, that was not edited. So I was just like, okay. But my perception of them, specifically through that clip of Felix from God's Menu, when he said something, wait, I forget the exact line. I don't want to butcher it. But anyways, he said the famous line, and I was thinking, he's probably like way too cool, or like probably from a group that kind of like don't care about anything or anybody. They're just like, I don't know how to word it. at this exact moment, but you know the vibes. Like, they just too, like, stuck up or something like that, you know? So that, along with hearing the music, I was just like, okay, whatever, I'm not gonna do it. But eventually I did sit down, I, like, had the music video up, and I watched it. And as soon as I watched the music video for the first time, I was like, oh no, this is my song. Like, wait a minute, this song is really, really good. And so I had that song specifically on repeat for days, maybe even weeks, probably, knowing my personality. And that's when I started watching more performances, specifically for Backdoor, because I was just like, wait a minute, like, this song is just like, I want to see the choreography, I want to see all the moves, I just want to see how it's like. And I was just like, wow, they're, like, really cool. And I was just like, okay, but they're still probably stuck up, right? My assumingness was that they were, you know, just too cool, stuck up, or, like, you know, not down to earth people. Trying to, like, gaslight myself into thinking, Rachel, you shouldn't get into them. You really shouldn't. And that was around the time, like, when I was watching Backdoor specifically, like, constantly on repeat as well. I was trying to debate on who my bias was going to be. And, like, looking back on it now, it's kind of strange that I was like, whoa, wait a minute. It's not a bad thing, mind you. It's not a bad thing. But I was just trying to figure out, who would my bias be? Because sometimes when you know, you just know. And I was debating between, like, possibly Seungmin or IN. Felix, of course, because he was the reason I got into Stray Kids. And then Hyunjin. But, like, for example, like, I don't know how to say it. Like, Seungmin just gave off that vibe. I was just like, wait a minute. He's cool. And then IN, I loved his blue hair. His blue hair was just top tier. Oh my gosh, like, love him. And then Hyunjin just, long story short, for Hyunjin, he's the love of my life. In the sense of, like, I just admire him so much. He just makes me want to be a better person. All those things. I just nickname him that. He just really inspires me. From there, I think I started to slowly listen to more of their songs, but I can't remember what other songs I really listened to from there. It's like all a blur of how it all, like, I went further into, like, liking them. But on a side tangent, one of the older songs that I did listen to in the music videos that I watched was for On Track. And to this day, if I could watch a music video again for the first time, it would be On Track, because that felt like a movie to me. It was so meaningful to me, and I actually just, I don't know. That song in particular, just like, wow. What else did I have in this? Now I'm kind of just going off script, because I had it, like, timeline-wise, but I'm like, wait a minute, that actually doesn't, now that I'm talking about it out loud, it's making more sense of what happened when. So, talk about On Track, and then I knew I became a fan when they had their comeback for Thunderous. And that's when I knew for sure that I was like, oh no, like, we're, like, there's no going back from here. There's no going back. And I think, I don't know what happened then. I don't remember, the timeline's getting fuzzy again, but I guess kind of going backwards to, like, how I was figuring out who my bias was, I was really wondering, like, because when I pick a bias, I don't like to change it. Like, I want to just know. Like, I can't, like, just say that's my bias if I don't know yet. And so when I was figuring it out, my heart knew it was Hyunjin. Deep down, it really did know. But my brain just didn't really follow quickly enough. And this, because for me, I don't know if anyone else had the same issue, but for me at least, for Backdoor, so Hyunjin specifically has pink hair and blonde hair. And me at the time didn't realize that that was two different people. Oh, no, sorry. No, it's not two different people, sorry. I actually thought it was two different people. And then I realized it was both Hyunjin at the same time, but he just had blonde and pink hair in that music video. So, Lamau. I fell for him twice, essentially, because I didn't realize it was both of him. And I was just like, oh, oops. And so I just didn't want to be someone who never want to be someone who biases someone only for their looks. That's just not who I am. But once I realized, like, his personality and how much I relate to him, like, I just knew, like, he was just the one. He was just, like, my bias. Like, he's honestly became my new alt bias at the time. And he still is one of my alt biases. So it's just like, wow. Because I don't know if I've said it here, but for myself, like K-pop and like groups and things like that, they always come at a time that I need them without me realizing. And Stray Kids and Hyunjin, they honestly saved my life, and I don't know where I would be without them. They helped me discover a lot of groups. They have helped me discover a lot about myself, self-confidence, my artistic abilities, like what I want to do, just to be yourself and not give a damn of what other people think, because life is too short. You know, it is cheesy, but it is too short to, like, you know, care about all those things. So, after that, after deciding I was gonna kind of go back into the K-pop world because I loved Stray Kids so much, or was learning about them, I did decide to make a K-pop centered Instagram. And I don't know what happened. I just ended up searching for Hyunjin's photo cards because I didn't have any albums at the time, but for some reason I was just like really wanting a photo card of his. I really don't know what came over me, because like I said in my first episode, I was never one to collect photo cards. And I just had, like, if when I get an album, like, the PC or the photo card that I got, like, that was the one I get. Like, that was meant for me. Like, I'm not going to trade it. Like, that's just, like, luck of the draw kind of thing. So anyways, I did search for Hyunjin's photo cards. And there was, like, one in particular that I really wanted. And then I saw some that were, you know, decently priced. And I thought they were cute. And so I bought them. And to this day, I still remember when I got that first PC in the mail, I had instant serotonin, in the sense of, like, that was like a feeling I could never explain. I still remember, like, the day I got it and how I felt, and I was like, oh no, this is gonna be like something I'm gonna be doing. Like, I'm gonna be collecting photo cards of this boy. Like, I have to. Like, there's no way out of it. But it honestly got me to a point that I would be getting so much mail that I would be sad when I didn't. I'm also pretty lucky that I only lost maybe 2, maybe 3 pieces of mail to date, but knock on wood, because I've dealt with a few scams, unfortunately, but that's neither here nor there. But I collected so much for Stray Kids, but specifically Hyunjin, and I could literally calculate how many days it would take for mail to come, or, like, I would possibly get mail, like, every single day, and I would be so sad if I didn't get any mail. And I was like, okay, this is just like, whoa, this is a lot. In terms of collecting, I specifically wanted to collect Hyunjin, and then when I was figuring out my bias line at the time, kind of like figuring out, like, so Hyunjin was always number 1. He always will be number 1 as my bias in Stray Kids, specifically. And then it was between Lino and Felix for number 2 and number 3. And I kept flip-flopping of, like, is Felix number 2? Is Lino number 2? And there was a good few months that I was just saying, like, Hyunjin and Lino are the ones. Like, I can't, like, I bias both of them. Like, I can't pick one. I don't, like, it was just, wow. I still remember how I felt like that. It's just, like, I don't know what came over me to, like, decide that or not decide that. But I knew for sure it was Dance Racha. So Dance Racha is essentially the nickname for Hyunjin, Felix, and Lino, as a unit. And I did attempt to collect Dance Racha. And I know what you're thinking. If you know, you know. But essentially, Dance Racha are the hardest members to collect, as a whole, like, honestly. And I was just, like, in the mindset of, like, I have to collect Dance Racha. Like, I need, like, this PC to match the other 2 and all this stuff. And then I was debating of, like, which PCs I wanted, which ones were cute enough, which ones were, like, for me, cute enough, or what would make me happy. I just kind of went for it. I didn't really prioritize, like, what PCs meant more to me, or, like, which ones I wanted first. And by doing so, it really got me burnt out. I really was just like, oh no. I just didn't know what I wanted. And it was just so much that happened. I didn't put a limit on myself, and because I didn't put a limit, I ended up getting burnt out from collecting. And then, my gosh, it was just so much. I think when I realized that I officially was burnt out was that I got to the point of spending money on photo cards that I actually felt guilty rather than feeling happy to get them. And yes, I'm very privileged to be able to get as much as I have and can afford them. So don't get me wrong there. But realizing I was almost spending just to spend, it hurt my mental health, and I had to take a pause. And I really had to limit what Stray Kids PCs I wanted, because I didn't want to let that burnout ruin my love for Stray Kids. And to kind of like preface, I love Stray Kids so hecking much. Like, no matter what, I will always love them. And I didn't want to put my love for them on the line because I can't collect their photo cards or all of the ones that I thought I wanted when I didn't. So eventually I let go of a decent amount of cards, and I'm still trying to let go of some of them because, you know, people don't want to buy them or people don't want to trade. It's okay. With the new system on Instagram, it kind of just is, it is what it is. But I kept the ones I felt a connection to the most, because how I kind of pictured it is that, like, okay, if I can visualize having this PC or PCs out of my collection, would I actually miss it? Would I even notice that it was gone in the first place? And so what I did, I was like physically take out those photo cards from my binder, put them aside, and I would look at my binder again. I'm like, hey, did I even notice that one was gone? Like, did I even notice, like, it wasn't even there? Like, does it make a big difference? And so if I didn't even notice it was gone, I would commit to trading it or selling it. Sometimes if I was really confused or really not unsure, I would just keep it for a longer period of time and just have it aside, and then maybe put it back. And then I'm like, okay, if I miss it, then I'll put it back. Or if it fits properly, fits where it could, you know, have a spot, I would do it. And so even when I stopped collecting Stray Kids photo cards specifically as passionately as I once did, especially as a Hunjin bias, once again, if you know, you know, Hunjin is very, very hard to collect, and I'm very thankful for the ones that I do have. But I felt I just had to distance myself from their content, because truly we get a lot of content as a fan of Stray Kids, as a stay. We get a lot of content. And I was just kind of like connecting, you know, if I can't watch their content, if I can't collect their photo cards, am I really a dedicated fan? Or quote unquote a dedicated fan? And I felt bad. I felt like I couldn't watch everything. I started to get busy with life. A lot of life changes, so realistically I can't watch everything on the day it gets released, or sometimes there's no English subtitles at the time, so I had to wait a few days, and then I forget, and I'm just like, I just really want to enjoy content to the fullest. And so I noticed that that's what happened when I was into Infinite, and I still love them, but once I started to feel that distance and that burnout, I didn't want to repeat myself and do the same thing I did with them. So I took that chance. I kept up with Instagram. I kept up with a few Twitter updates, but I kind of lessened it as time went on, and even now I'm lessening it even more. It was honestly a nice change of my mindset to be able to enjoy them, but in a lighter sense of content consumption, because I think I connected my consumption of photo cards, of content, to how much I love Stray Kids. And that was not very healthy for me at all, because just because I can't watch everything, just because I can't collect everything as much as I thought I could or wanted to, it doesn't change how much I love Stray Kids. Like, that will never change. And I know that, like, everyone enjoys content in many formats, in many amounts, and it's like, you know, other people, like, I don't judge other people for doing however they enjoy. Like, if you just listen to their music, if you only collect some photo cards, if you don't collect any, like, it doesn't, like, the amount of how we do it, consume the content, it, you know, doesn't change how much we love them. And I knew that for other people, but for me and myself, I had to really learn that for myself in the hard way. that, you know, I can treat myself with grace and things like that in that sense. But like I said, and like I keep saying, I love Stray Kids. I love them so much. Like, nothing could ever change my love for them. They saved me more times than I can count. And now I'm in a much better place. I can consume their content and things like that and not feel like I'm going overboard or feel like I'm going to have resentment for them because of my actions. But also kind of like understanding, like, you know, I don't need to collect their photo cards. I don't need to collect all of them. I don't need to collect all of Dance Racha and feel like it has to be done that way. And even now, I'm lessening a lot of how much I collect for Stray Kids. And it's kind of a relief, but also kind of like, whoa, I didn't think I would get to that point. But kind of like how I'm framing it now is that, you know, I have a lot of Hunjin PCs, both POBs and both regular album PCs, so that's pretty damn amazing. And, you know, it's not a priority anymore, but he will still be the love of my life, and that is okay. And kind of talking about more like positives as well, you know, they literally brought me so many friends, so many like genuine friends and like lovely people to interact with. I honestly could never thank them enough for all that they've given me. And honestly, it did lead me into how I became a multi-fandom stan, which is honestly something I never thought I would say. And kind of like how in my first episode, like I talked about how I was solely like only in spirit, like Infinite was the only one for me. They were the only ones. Like, I would listen to other groups, but I'd be like, no, they're not the same. It's not the same. I can't, you know, listen to their discography and not have a, like, you know, if I can't listen to the discography without skipping a song, then it's like, nah, it's not for me. Little did I know that I would end up being from Infinite only to Stray Kids only. But as I said in my first episode, Infinite wasn't listening at the time. My energy was a lot less. I had burnout from that. And then eventually, I was trying to remember how I got into like other groups. From what I can recall, is that I was kind of, I don't know if I was scrolling on TikTok or if I just found other songs, possibly through my YouTube playlist now that I think about it. Maybe that's what happened. I got into some other groups, and I was learning more about their, like, those members and like all those things. I was like, oh wait, this is like refreshing. It's nice to know like other groups and all these things, like more on a deeper level in a sense of like, oh, I can recognize who's who and like who my bias is and all these things like that. And unfortunately, those two groups that I'm remembering now in particular, I'm not into as much. And that's okay. But I just, you know, it's just interesting that I was dedicated but not. And it's just like kind of things that are like interesting. But it did lead me into getting into, for myself, I'm getting into ATEEZ, Wavy, into the boys. I now am into the NCT universe. I'm now into ZB1. And I never thought I could have the capacity and the privilege to be able to listen, not only listen to the music, but also kind of start collecting other groups. Because I would honestly be watching like so many collecting videos, and I would start out watching like people collecting Stray Kids specifically. But then when I saw that people had like a variety of groups that they collected, I was like, whoa, because I was just so stuck on collecting Stray Kids that also due to the burnout, I was so tired of seeing the same cards over and over and over. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm never gonna get that photo card, or like this is the same thing. I want something new, something refreshing. And seeing groups I never even recognized, I was like, whoa, this is a whole new world. And so eventually I got into collecting other biases, and then it was just, wow, it was so amazing. So even though I stopped collecting Stray Kids as like intensely, I'm now collecting like other groups. For example, as I mentioned, ATEEZ, Wavy, The Boys, NCT, ZB1, all those groups are just to name a few. And it's just like so wild to me because I didn't think I would dive into collecting photo cards even more. I thought when I stopped collecting Stray Kids as much or being as dedicated as much in the sense of like wanting their photo cards, I didn't think I would be interested in collecting other photo cards. I think the next, like, photo card endeavors that I did was for ATs specifically, because I was kind of hesitant to get into ATs, I'm not gonna lie. I just didn't want to, like, get, what's the word? I didn't want the hype that I kept seeing to be, like, not what I expected, and I was kind of scared, because two of my friends in particular, you know who you are very much into ATs, and I was just like, I was very scared to get into their content, and some of their content I was just like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. Should I get into their songs? Maybe not. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. And eventually I finally did, and you know, oh my gosh, I love him so much. I love all of them so much. They're just so amazing. And you know, it's my bias, so I ended up getting into collecting his photo cards, and that was really nice. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so different and so new and so wow. It's just, oh my gosh, so many things. So that was really nice, and I got to be closer to those two friends in particular. And now I'm an 18, so it was really cool to kind of get into that. And then since I went from Stray Kids to ATs, I was like, oh, what if I look at other groups' photo cards? But I also didn't want to, like, be, like, wishy-washy and kind of, like, say, like, oh, because I'm into this group now, I'm going to collect their photo cards. I want to be, like, how do I say? I want to be able to have, like, a deep connection to the group and to be happy with the photo cards, rather than just buying photo cards just because I can. And so I don't know which the next group was after ATs specifically. I don't know if it was Wavy specifically. It was kind of like the boys, kind of, but then I think it was Wavy that kind of, like, got me into collecting more photo cards, because I wanted to collect photo cards for my biases, and was just like, you know, all those things kind of, like, compiled into one. And not only did I listen to their music, and then I was, like, figuring out my bias line, and then wanting their photo cards, and just so much variety. And now I have so many binders, and it's just so amazing how much has happened since coming back into the K-pop world. I've said things I've never thought I would say, and I always like to be an open-minded person, but sometimes it's hard for myself. Sometimes I don't give myself the same standards I should give to other people, which I normally do. You know, I don't judge other people. I don't, you know, want to have people, you know, be closed off if they don't want to, all these things like that. But that's kind of a side tangent, but I kind of had it more harder for myself. I've noticed I've been very hard on myself a lot more over the years, and I'm trying to work on that. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say. Becoming, like, you know, getting to Stray Kids, how I am with them now, how I became a multi-stan. Just so much has changed. And even now, I've noticed that burning out apparently is a very common trend for me that I've noticed that I really want to avoid moving forward, or kind of, like, talk about it, but also say that it's okay. I don't want to be hard on myself about it as well in that sense. Because I noticed, like, for my ATs collection, for example, I am like, maybe I don't need as many ATs PCs as I thought. And somehow, some way, my burnout for Stray Kids PCs, like, somehow became more rapid for ATs, and I don't know how or when that happened. And I was like, okay, Rachel, we don't want this to continue again. So I lessened how many PCs I want for ATs, you know, specifically, and then some San PCs if I'm able to, and some other ones. And, like, hey, like, if I happen to get a PC and I really like it, I'll keep it. If I don't, I'll trade and move on from there. I try not to give it more power than it needs to be, because I feel like it's overwhelming me when I should be the one to have the power to be like, hey, it's okay to not collect everything. It's okay. So yeah, and now I'm just getting into so many more groups and so many more things, and just, like, so exciting to have other PCs to collect, and, like, just look at and be like, ooh, this one's really cute, or, like, having it have some meaning. For example, with, like, Wavy, I personally became Wazney during Phantom era, which I'm forgetting what the actual album was called, but you know, if you know, you know, that during that era. And I was like, oh, so what if I collect maybe either their photo cards from like that moment forward, not back collect like from previous eras that I wasn't even in, unless it was like really cute photo cards or things like that. Kind of limiting what makes you happy versus trying to collect everything. Because I never thought of myself as a completionist per se, but trying to go back and forth between what I want to collect and what not to collect kind of was just a whole thing I had to work on. So yeah, other than that, I don't want to keep you guys for too long, mostly because now I feel like I'm getting to the point where I am rambling to the point it's not making sense. And although I am at 30 minutes or so, I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed. I'm still trying to think about what my next topic will be. Like I said before, if you guys have anything you guys want me to talk about, anything you guys have have any questions about, feel free to let me know, and I would love to talk about it with you guys. Other than that, I think we'll end it there. But yeah, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I don't know if I want to be like an actual YouTuber, but hey, if you like my content, feel free to leave a comment, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And other than that, I will see you next one. Bye-bye!